Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on tracking assignments with OneNote, brought to you by the Academic Resource Center at Georgetown University. We are going to be spending our whole webinar in OneNote, so if you're not super familiar, this is a good opportunity for you to just see what some of the features look like and to get a sense of how to use it. If you haven't worked with OneNote before, this is the note-taking platform that's part of the Microsoft Office suite. So if you have Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel on your computer, there is a good chance that you also have OneNote already on your computer. As we see here in this graphic from Microsoft, you can sync these files with OneDrive so that you can access them from different devices that you may own. So when considering if this is a platform that you want to be using, consider, are you someone who likes to work on digital platforms? If you're someone who likes to jump between an iPad and a laptop, this is a really great way for you to keep track of assignments. Or if you just feel like you have a lot of different Microsoft files in a lot of different places and you want to have them be more centralized. Continuing to look here at some of the just kind of details from OneNote, some features you can do on this are create to-do lists, which we're going to be going over how to use that today. You can include images from the web, you can have tables, and again, it's primarily known as a note-taking interface. So you can write notes directly on slides, and it's a platform that you can upload PDFs, videos, pictures to, and edit them freely. So again, a really great tool for note-taking if you like to use a pen on an iPad. It can be super helpful. But again, today we're mainly going to be focusing on how you can use this tool to keep track of your assignments. So how you can use it to stay organized. And we're going to start by going over how you can keep track of your day-to-day assignments. So this means your upcoming assignments for each day over the series of maybe a week and some change. Something that is personal for you to decide before you develop a system is how you want to organize your day-to-day assignments. Do you want to keep them structured by class, or do you want to structure them by due date? And we have an example of each in here. And once you've decided that, it's good to get in the practice of making sure you have your assignments for about a week in advance written down. For university and grad school, we often recommend looking at assignments a week at a time because that's often how professors are assigning them. When you're in high school, you can kind of take it day by day because you often have classes every day. But for a higher education experience, sometimes the professor is expecting you to do a reading and a paper in the next week. And if you only look at that the day ahead of time, then you might not be prepared. So here we have an example of what a checklist could look like by day. I have this as my deadlines. Each one of these is a separate text box. So if I want to move them around, I can. But basically we have our due date at the top, Thursday the 7th, Friday the 8th, Monday the 11th. And I have this just as a simple checklist. So as I complete things, I can just kind of mark it off. So the advantage of structuring your to-do list by date is that it helps you plan better. You can see, what do I have due each day and how do I need to structure my day around that? Something that might be a disadvantage is it does take time to sit down and create these lists. Whereas if you're doing something by class, you might be able to just write your assignments more in the moment as you are finishing up class or sitting down to do homework one evening. So here's a similar list where we have things structured by course. We needed to include the due date for each of these so that you can have a sense of what's due when. If you just have the tasks and you don't have the date, then this isn't going to be super helpful. And there's a question in the chat. Are there templates to create checklists? I'm going to go over how to make them in just a moment. They're very easy, which is one reason that this is a super great tool. What you may notice here for these is instead of regular checklist bullets, we have different categories. So there are ways you can tag items here. Here we have to do priority 1, to do priority 2, and then star is just very important. So for these, you can have it just as these checkboxes and check them off, but this important star doesn't have a checklist, so you can also do these side by side if you really want the checklist component. So how do we make a checklist? So again, there are a few different ways to do it, and this is one of the reasons people like OneNote so much. One is you can just start writing text anywhere. When I clicked, you can see that it brought up my already existing text box, which is right here. But anywhere there isn't a textbook, I can start writing, and then I can begin making a list. Favorite snacks, we'll say ice cream. What else do we like? Chips. And then we edit this text. This is one way to do it. So we can either edit by clicking these dots at the top of the checklist. And up here, this is where we can change font in a lot of basic ways, but we can click tag as to do. And now we've added this checklist component. I realize this isn't really a to-do list unless my goal is to eat all the snacks. And then you can also click on the caret next to this to edit them individually. So if that's my title and I don't want there to be a checkbox, I can take it away. So we can also add these individualized tags by coming up here. We click on the arrow next to an item, or you can click on all of them. Next to our tag as to-do box, we see this other tag. And if we click on here, we see all of these options. A lot of options. The ones I was using before is important, which is little star, or I was also using before scrolling down to do priority 1 or to do priority 2, which I like that in terms of how I process, because priority 1 is what do I need to do for tomorrow. Priority 2 is later. And then the star for me was like a written assignment. That's how I decided to process it, which you can see on my little list. So a reading due tomorrow is priority 1. Readings due next week are priority 2, and then something where I need to type is a star, very important item. So having these tags is super helpful because you can search by tags to see what you have coming up. So what we do is go to home, and up at the top, we have two options. One is, first, I also just wanted to point up here on home, we have to-do tag. If we click on this, it will just make a new checkbox list. And then we also have here all of these tags next to it, which some of these are also ways to highlight as well. Again, they're note-taking tools. So if you want to tag as a phone number. So we don't even have to go into that menu to add all of these tags here, which is exciting. But we have that they're highlighted. So a lot of tools to play with. But also up here, what we have is the Find Tags tool. So if I click on this, it will open up on the right are all of the tags, and you can sort them in different ways. So my favorite way to sort them is by tag name, because that's how you can see what is important, what is priority 1. There we go. What's my to-do? I just have chips as to do. Priority 1. What is priority 2? So it kind of automatically makes a to-do list out of all of the items that you have spread across these different pages. So it's a great tool for keeping track of items. And then we can just X out of this. So again, those are kind of an easy to jump in way to start keeping track of things. To make either these templates here, all I did was just, again, type text and date and then add the checkbox. So very easy to use. Another way that's also pretty simple, but a little more complex, is to make a table in OneNote, which here I've used a table to track major assignment deadlines. So just a quick note about that. When I talk about major assignment deadlines, I'm talking about significant assignments that require advanced work, such as a paper, a test, a project, a presentation. So they require more planning, more time, and they're usually worth a larger percentage of your grade. So for this, you want to make sure that early in the semester, you're looking over all of your syllabi and Canvas pages to locate important assignments. And then you also want to enter in all major assignment due dates for the upcoming semester. This will help you get a sense of when are you going to be very busy and when do you have to be super on top of your planning. So here we have a major assignment deadline table that I made in OneNote. Basically, I just have my 3 classes here: Econ, Problem of God, and Spanish. And for each of these, I entered in tests, problem sets, and papers. I made 3 columns, one for subject, one for what the assignment is, and the due date. And I highlighted the tests only because those are the ones that I'm the most worried about. So I want a sense of when those are with a little bit of extra urgency. Something that's nice about the table feature is that you can sort these according to category. Right now I have these sorted by subject, but if I take my cursor over the 3rd column, the due date column, and I right click on it, so there we go, and I go down to table, I can choose to sort ascending, and now it will sort these items by due date instead. So it works kind of like an Excel sheet in that way, in that I can sort the information if I want to compare dates versus subjects. I think that's mainly helpful because sometimes you enter it in by subject as you're going through a syllabus, and then you want to actually see how the dates fit alongside one another. So how do we make tables? There are 2 ways that you can make them, and I don't know that I have a preference for one or the other. One is just to go up here to insert at the top and go to table. And then basically it gives you a visual for how big you want your table to be. So I chose 4x4, and now I have my 4x4 table. I can use arrows, the arrow keys, to go from box to box, and it is a pretty easy to use tool. The other way that I can make a table is I can just start typing anywhere. So if I decide I'm going to type, if I press the tab button on my keyboard, it will make a new column. And then again, it will make a new column once again. And if I want a new row, I press enter. So arrow key to move over, arrow key to move over, enter for new row. So sometimes you just aren't sure how big your table is going to be, I find this easier for a table that I'm still creating. I can always go and edit a table by right-clicking where I showed how to sort, and we can, insert rows, delete columns, but sometimes it's just a little easier to do it this way. So let's move on to the next way that we can play with OneNote. This is more complicated than it looks, but what you can do is find a calendar template online that you want to use and add it to your OneNote page as a photo. So the template I have here is from passionplanner.com. I like to use them because they do sell physical planners, but they also provide free digital planner templates if you give them your email address, which I feel okay advertising because I'm on their mailing list and it's not too aggressive. But basically, this calendar here is just a calendar for September, and it is a photo that I've added, and then I've typed on top of it in individual boxes. So the visual I find really helpful to use, and it wasn't that difficult to set up, but it's kind of like creating an actual planner calendar online. And then you can play with text colors on here. You can play with how you want to format it. So it's kind of a fun way to use this. I use this Passion Planner photo because I like it, but there are folks who do make specific templates for OneNote. So if you're really interested in how to do this, look around. There's some that may be free, may be available for purchase. But how do you add a calendar photo? Again, my favorite here is Passion Planner. Their website is just passionplanner.com. And then here's a photo of some of their free downloads. My favorite is the month dated printable. But basically, you save your picture, you save your template as a photo and you insert it, or you can take a screenshot and insert it. So very easy to do this. You just go up to insert and either picture or screen clipping, and then it appears. Something that's interesting to note, as it says up here with screen clipping, is that depending on the format of the screen clipping, OneNote may be able to search for text within it. So that's pretty exciting. But this is also a good way if you have a paper planner or you've written something down, you can take a photo of that and add it to this. So that's a good way to kind of work with this system as well. So I mentioned beforehand that OneNote is great if you enjoy working with the other Microsoft Suite products, and in particular, Excel can be a really great tool to use with this, especially if you've ever taken a look at the Excel templates. Excel has a ton of student-focused templates for planning, for assignment planning, even for things like budgeting. What these templates are basically just pre-formatted Excel spreadsheets that you can use and repurpose. So if you're curious about that, we have a whole webinar that we did about tracking assignments with templates in Google Sheets and Excel. But what we have here is the student assignment planner template, and we filled it out and we've been able to embed it into OneNote. So here we have a few different pages. This Excel sheet has 3 tabs. This is the first tab, is the assignment list, which is here. Then the second tab is a month view that shows when assignments are due. And then the third tab is a week view that shows when assignments are due. So there's some pros and cons to using Excel. As I mentioned before, we had a webinar that we did on this called Keeping Track of Assignments with Google Sheets in Excel. And at the end of the presentation, I'll show you our YouTube page link. How you embed a spreadsheet is, again, pretty simple. You go up to Insert and then go to Spreadsheet, and then you can either do an existing Excel spreadsheet or a new spreadsheet. One thing that's important to note is that with these spreadsheets, they will often open in Excel. So you may have noticed with this page here, there's a link here that would allow me to edit, but I can't edit this directly. So what it is showing is the most up-to-date version of an active spreadsheet. And then as I update that spreadsheet, the changes will appear here, but I can't edit this directly. So if I want to create a new spreadsheet from a template, I would recommend going via Excel and saving it first, and then adding it to this once I've created the template. So it's helpful because that allows you to kind of get these templates in here. And again, it does, it will sync with other OneNote apps if you have logged into your Microsoft account, but it's trickier because you're not directly editing in here. So it depends on how you're using it. Excel allows you to get more detailed. So it's definitely something worth considering. If you're interested in learning more about note-taking specifically, you can join us for our next webinar, which is going to be on Tuesday, September 19th at 4 p.m. on developing a note-taking system. And as I mentioned before, all of our previous webinars are on our YouTube page with the addresses here for our website, which from there you can navigate to our YouTube page. That Excel tracking assignments with Excel webinar is a good next step if you're interested in using that. But let me know in the chat if you have any other questions. Otherwise, thanks so much for joining today, and best of luck getting organized for the semester.